like to welcome everybody back. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a deep dive into how the Pusser legend got started. Now, it's not like a lot of people think. There was a book written by W.R. Morris, the 12th of August. And for years, decades, people thought that it was the Bible as far as the legend was concerned. I was one of those people. And then, after I heard enough from folks who lived in the area, I started to dig a little closer. And when I did, I found a lot of things that did not agree with what Morris wrote. So we're going to take a look at some of those things. The statement that you just saw on the screen is very accurate. Anytime that there's a historical event, it seems like that there's always someone out there that is trying to reconstruct and revise true history. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Now, when you think about it for a moment, there's a lot of historical events that have been revised. I mean, if you've ever researched the Kennedy assassination, you know what I'm talking about, because it's like the Warren Commission changed everything about that history. I believe that that was a coup that happened here in America, just like we were a third world banana republic. It was written to make us believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but yet you look at all the proof that says, well, he may have been a part of it, he may not have been, but what the Warren Commission said wasn't right. Well, the story of Buford Pusser is a lot the same way. You think about it. W.R. Morris wrote this book, and it became the Bible for what we were expected to believe about Buford Pusser. And we're going to take a look at it and let you see some of the events that Morris revised. For example, take a look at this page in his book where he describes Carl Pusser as having been in an accident in October of '57 where he injured himself. But it's 1962 now, and Carl is still working as the chief of police in Adamsville, according to W.R. Morris's book. He asked Buford if he would like to take his position as chief of police in Adamsville, and Buford's response is, well, if you quit. Now, that implies that Carl was still indeed chief of police. And Carl said that he would talk to the mayor. And the book indicates that the following day he did just that. Of course, what we now know is that Carl hadn't been chief of police since 1957. As a matter of fact, when Buford started in 1962 for the Adamsville Police Department, he worked under Chief Buford Surratt. So, why did W.R. Morris want to rewrite history? Another place in the story where W.R. Morris altered history was when he talked about Louise Hathcock murdering a young sailor at the White Iris with a claw hammer. We now know, after interviewing Kenneth Wayne McCoy's two sons, that it didn't happen at all. First of all, this was supposed to have happened in 1956. However, the White Iris wasn't even built until 1964. And Kenneth Wayne McCoy's son said it was Towhead White who assaulted him, but didn't kill him. So why did Morris bother to write that it was Louise Hathcock that killed young McCoy with a claw hammer? Now, another time that Morris would engage in rewriting history was about the trip that Buford made down to the state line to visit the Plantation Club in February of 1957. Morris, in his book, described the room in certain detail and how it appeared. Now, we've all seen the diagrams that I've put out there in my book and on Facebook, and it does not show the room that Morris described. Nobody's come forth to challenge what I've put out there in either the book or on my Facebook page. Buford would claim that while he was at the plantation club that night, that he accused an individual of switching dice, and in the process there was a fight. Said several men participated, getting him on the floor, kicking him, stomping him, beating him, and then they threw him out in the rain in the parking lot and just left him there. He said he went to Humphrey Phillips Clinic in Selmer to be treated. Now, I guess what I find a little odd about all this is that there's no way to verify that he went to this clinic at all. Odd that the clinic that Morris named is no longer there. And you would think that with Buford telling this story, that he would have given Morris permission to go to the clinic and check the medical records for himself, just to prove that his story was true. But that didn't happen. Now, there's all kinds of information in the book that Morris got wrong. Some of it seems small and trivial, insignificant, but yet it's very important in the overall scheme of things. Like when he was describing the shootout at the Shamrock. Morris wrote that Louise asked Buford to step into her private office, but it takes on a whole new meaning when you find out it was her living quarters. Buford would claim as they entered the room, Louise cursed him, pulled a gun, and fired a shot at him. And notably, the bullet took the plaster off the wall. Now, in reality, the bullet went through the window and lodged itself in the awning post right out front of the office. Now, if this wasn't enough, Morris would describe Buford's first shot as nipping her in the shoulder, spinning her around, second shot blowing out her heart, and then the third shot he rarely ever talked about, but it was to her head. Now, when we see the autopsy report that was done, which we didn't know about until decades later, the first two shots struck Louise in the back. Why was Morris reinventing the story? Was it to protect Buford? Be sure and subscribe and hit that bell so that you'll get notifications of new videos when they're released. Of course, Morris would write that Towhead White wanted Buford dead for what he had done to Louise. And I've never been able to ascertain any information that could positively place Towhead White as making any plans to have Buford killed. Could have happened, but I haven't found anything, and I don't believe anyone else has either. But yet, Morris would write about it and say that people were talking about how that Towhead would get him, how that he had broken out of prison when he was in Montgomery and did the first shooting back in January of '67, and now he was going to break out of Leavenworth and kill Buford, or have somebody else do it. Now let's move on to the ambush, where Buford allegedly shared a lot of information with W.R. Morris. And one thing that stuck out to me was Buford's descriptions of the roads being so bad. Now, keep in mind that our research has shown that the road there at New Hope had been resurfaced just the day or two before the ambush. But yet, here Buford is talking about there being holes in the road that he's having to avoid, saying it's like driving on a washboard. Then there's also when Pauline is shot. He mentions that she reaches over, grabs his arm. Now, you have to wonder if she's shot in the head, how does she have the wherewithal to reach over and grab his arm? It's going to be interesting when we see the results of her autopsy to know what might or might not have happened there. Now, there are a couple of things that bother me in this next part because Buford would claim at the second ambush site that he was shot twice in the lower jaw with a .30 caliber carbine, and all it did was blow his chin off, or at least left it hanging by a flap of skin. And then the second part is that he would claim that Pauline was shot a second time and the bullet that took her life went through the metal door. Well, we've all seen photographs of Buford's car after the ambush, and there was no hole in the metal door. The windows were blown out, but there was no hole in the metal doors, as the book claims. Of course, Morse would write that rumors started to circulate around the county that Buford had killed his wife, and really tried to portray that there was no chance that those rumors were true. However, look at the evidence now. Eddie Bond was recording records to make Buford out to be a hero. W.R. Morris wrote several books. Then there was Bing Crosby Productions and a plethora of police and detective magazines that hit the newsstands. And next thing you know, Buford is a American hero. So it's kind of strange how the whole thing works. He was a man, then a legend, and now we know he was a myth. At any rate, we'll see you again before long with another episode of Buford Pusser, The Other Story, and we'll take a look at some more very intriguing things. Till then, just remember, truth has no agenda.